What's up, visionary? I am Clee Davis, your vision actualization mentor, back with another episode to help you break down your vision building barriers. You know, guys, as we come to the end of the year and the end of the decade, I've been thinking about what I am doing, where I am taking Build Your Vision as a whole. And as I'm contemplating these things, I started to realize that we live in a time where being a visionary is easier than it's ever been. But it's also harder than it's ever been. And this oxymoronic situation is quite difficult to process, to say the least. Well, until now. Let me explain. We are living in a time where access to resources are at an all-time high. The internet has democratized information. How much you know is more predicated on how much you want to learn, rather than your circumstance, location, age, or any other factor of that type. On the other hand, the word vision implies time. Vision takes time. It's a forecast for the future. And we live in a world that emphasizes the present. Everything is quick, instant, short form, easy to access. So being a visionary can be just flat out frustrating because it feels like everything is flying past you while your journey is moving slower than molasses. Being a new age visionary takes a different mindset and approach, and I decided to discuss this with one of the wisest guys I know. That's Ronnie Vanderhorst. So Nexa, do your thing.
Loading. Visionary profile. Ronnie Vanderhorst. Hometown, Youngstown, Ohio. Occupation, inspirational speaker, minister, mentor, coach. 8-time author and lead facilitator of Prepare Our Youth Incorporated. Billboard quote, think for yourself. For weekly visionary value, subscribe to the show. Enjoy.
I have what I call some stabilizing principles, stabilizing philosophies of life. And these stabilizing philosophies are anchor thoughts that can buoy me up on the sea of crisis, trials, challenges, or whatever. My number one stabilizing principle for life came from this. There was an African king who wanted some words that would fit every crisis, challenge, circumstance in his life. But the words had to be so succinct that they could fit on his royal official signet ring that he stamped documents with. So his wise men and women went in and thought about it, and then they came back the next day with some words on his signet ring that said, "This too shall pass." That's my number one stabilizing philosophy for life, that no matter what we are into, what goes, what happens, this too shall pass. This buoys me up. Well, I have other thoughts like never be ashamed for not knowing, always be ashamed for not asking. What I'm saying is that when a person has stabilizing principle philosophies for life, this is now the way they pace themselves. This is the way they have the thought processes that vision takes time, or things transpire in time when they actually manifest themselves. So my first point is, what is a person's stabilizing philosophy of life? You see, everybody has a philosophy of life. Some people's philosophy is get all you can all you get, sit on the lid. Other people's philosophy is I don't get mad, I get even. Some people's philosophy is the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. So we all have philosophies in life, but if we don't choose them, then life will choose them for us. So therefore, I say, what are your stabilizing philosophy for life? What is your anchor thoughts that buoy you, that carry you in life? Well, those anchor thoughts will then help carry your vision. So you know that all of nature, it's a growing process. It takes time from the seed to the embryo to the actual plant. If we start there fundamentally with having principled stabilizing philosophies for life, then we have something, a path to walk with, things to help us, as opposed to just like, oh man, I'm getting older, the time clock is running, I don't have my stuff together yet.
How do you find that philosophy? Like, how do you develop it?
It's difficult to see your own face when it's in the frame. So just as you have like different approaches to the way you interview, and it's not just the run of the mill, I have different approaches to answers. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to see your own face when it's in the frame. A person needs to cast their vision to people that they trust and respect. For example, I have people sitting around me who have areas of expertise. Cleavon, I have 7 assets, and I want to create financial tributaries to all 7 of those assets so I can make more to do more for the kingdom and community. So I have people sitting around me, and not necessarily in my physical presence, but I will cast my vision to a person who has financial intelligence, to a person who I trust, who has the mindset and intellect of PR, and another person who has different areas of expertise. So I get their understanding as they see my vision from their area of expertise. And this helps me to establish a cogent, more holistic, well-rounded understanding of my vision than what I simply have. So it's casting your vision to people who have areas of expertise to give input, not to tell you what to do, but to help you to be able to assess what your vision is in a more holistic way.
And I feel like some people might know, I know that I have some people in mind that I'm thinking of right now, developing that team. And that's one of the things that you do talk about in the book, Growing and Flowing, is who do you surround yourself with, as far as mentorship and as far as friends. And this is something we talked about on the show before, but I want to hear your answer on it. How do you go about building that surrounding, those assets around you to move you in a positive direction?
Well, what is in a person's mind usually comes out of their mouth. And, my statement is most people's spiritual power leaks out of their mouths. But the scripture says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So as we listen to people, and we don't even have to be in dialogue with them, but if we're in proximity and we hear what they are saying, and they are sowing life into others, their words, what they're actually saying, give us an indication of what's in their mind. For example, I am not into motivation. I know people are into motivation or whatever, but motivation has a shelf life. Mm-hmm. And people have to keep motivating themselves or get somebody to motivate them to keep going to the gym, right, for example. I am into inspiration. Inspiration means to inspire, to breathe into. I am listening to people who breathe into other people, life, positivity, substance. So I begin to identify certain people based on listening to people, even when they don't know that I'm observing them. I put them into my mental file and say, this is a potential person that I may be able to run my vision by because they are saying things, they are inspiring, they have an area of expertise or a knowledge base that can be part of my solution and my vision.
And it's from running that by, getting feedback, culminating a overall idea of what you bring to the table that you could kind of doodle out and figure out what your stabilizing principles and philosophy is?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so. Also, it comes with, I believe, the scriptures, reading the word.
Mm-hmm.
The African Hebrew King Solomon, I mean, he dropped some serious wisdom in the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
He says, man, a man appears to be wise until he opens his mouth, stuff like that. And so in the scriptures, we can also glean and gain wisdom also. But it's difficult for us to see our own face when it's in the frame. Mm-hmm. That's why it's quintessential for us to have folk who are objective, or information that is objective, who is not emotionally attached to us in our situation, to be able to see some things that we cannot see.
Yeah. And the process that goes before that, or after, is a lot of self-reflection and a lot of, being in your own head and being by yourself. I know for myself, I know everyone's not like this. I'm an introvert. I need time away from things in order to get my thoughts together. That's when I'm the most productive. That's when I write the best. That's when I'm by myself and I have no interruptions. And I do feed off people sometimes, but that's not when I'm in my prime, I believe. And lots of times, I mean, especially being a young person, we like to be around people. We like to do things. We like to go out. We like to do all that types of stuff. And often we live in a time, so I'm going back to social media, where we equate solitude to loneliness. If I am by myself, then that means I have no life. Or if I'm by myself, that means I am lonely. Or if I am by myself, that means I have no friends. When that's not truly the case. And we often find ourselves, I see it all the time. I mean, I've seen myself do it before, where you go on Facebook and you post these pictures to show people that I am doing something with my life, rather than I am just satisfied with being alive. So I just want to get your thoughts on, what are your thoughts on solitude and silence that visionaries could take away, so that they know it's okay to be by myself, and when is the right time to be with others?
We can be alone and not be lonely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alone time is necessary, but alone time must be structured. We can't be alone just to be alone. It's like I say to groups, if you don't know what you came for, you will probably leave without it. If we don't know why we came to our alone time, we probably won't figure out why we are alone at this particular time. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to have some type of mental agenda for being alone. However, a person needs to know their own flow, because I'm an introvert also, but people will not probably think that because I have to be so public.
Right.
But exactly, I am a serious introvert, man, but I can be alone in a crowd, because alone time is more mental than physical. I can be by myself, and my thought processes can be crowded with unremunerative stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I can be distracted by myself. So basically, to be able to be, and I say this very innocently, versatile enough to identify your alone times, even when others may be around, but you are mentally processing something that you would possibly process in your alone time, that being in that environment sparked a thought. See, the alone time is the time where you are actually processing, and the thoughts are being, coming through, and you are thinking about stuff. Well, something in public may do that. And that might be your alone time if you can't get away. But once you get away, that might be the time that you can actually break this thing out on a larger scale. So alone time does not necessarily always equate to solitude, physical solitude.
Yeah, okay.
It is a mental solitude that seizes opportunities to process the very things that you need, that you are working on. But the benefit and blessing of being by yourself can also help enhance the processing of stuff.
I'm trying to think of times. I mean, I guess so. I guess sometimes we call it daydreaming. How to, like you said, be in solitude in a crowd. I'm trying to think, like, wouldn't you get distracted? I'm trying.
No, that's where your notes, that's where you take notes. Let me put that in.
Okay.
That's where you pull out your phone or your pad that you keep with you. That's when you take notes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a solitude. It's a moment of aloneness because now you are fixated. You're locking in on this. And you know that when it comes, even in a crowd, you have to write it like you get it.
Yeah.
Because all of the phraseology is there, all the pathos is there. But if you say, I'll wait till I get by myself, then it might not come like it came, and you only have to paraphrase now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the boom that it had when it came at that particular time. So in that crowd, that is your alone time, because now you are focusing in on that thing by itself. When you get into your solitude time, then now you can process it or break it out or really kind of elucidate on it more, do whatever you do with it. So that's what I mean by that. That's your alone time. Boom, even in a crowd. Get it like you get it, right there.
Yeah.
Even though they're around, no, you locked into that. Man, let me put this down. Let me type that on my phone. Let me get it in my notes. That was your alone time. What I'm trying to say is that we have to be, more open and more holistic in our alone and solitude time, and not necessarily get addicted to being by myself, or I can't do or process what I need to.
Right. Oh man, that's good. It's like I feel like it's a good balance of both, and knowing when you have the opportunity to use both and utilize both. That's so, and I find myself doing this because just like you said, when it's there in the moment, bow, it's right there.
Yeah.
Everything is with it, and the context, and everything that comes with it, the emotion. And then if you try to do it later, it's the worst feeling ever when you try to do it later and it's just not there. It's just,
it ain't there.
And I even I still type things on my phone, and sometimes if I have my notebook with me, I write it down. But sometimes things are happening so fast, or I'm in the car or something like that, and I can't write. I've started doing on my phone these voice memos. I call it my thought journal.
Yeah.
And it just, I have to capture it in the moment and get that solitude in my mind so that I can reflect on it later when I actually do have time to break it out. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's simply consider being a public and private alone time. This is my public alone time. I'm getting it down. People around or whatever, but I'm getting this thing. My public alone time and my private alone time.
Yeah, and that goes to the next thing. I mean, like I said, visionaries are often very prolific thinkers, and even with the private and public alone time, you're thinking all throughout. You're thinking, and man, so many things are going on. And actually, I don't know if it's more apparent now than it was in the past, but I think we might be more aware now because of the amount of information we have than we were in the past, of how much people or the media will try to think for us. And that goes from Twitter propaganda to this past election process to actual people, individuals who are in your ear telling you this is what you should do. This is how you should think. And often we get thrown off course or discouraged or whatever. Well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should think about only talking to this group of people because this group of people, they can't be helped. You know, the statistics say that this, blah, blah, and there's so much going on that we start getting trained on how we should think. How do you remain an independent thinker? I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Weakness is not from without. Weakness is from within. And I think my wife's brother, who's probably one of the best thinkers that I know. And see, that's what when I'm talking to young people, young adults, I'm saying I'm not interested in, and me personally, I'm not interested in you becoming a great person. I'm interested in you becoming a great thinker. Mm. But my wife's brother probably said it the best. He said, it's not what they say or don't say. It's not what happens or doesn't happen. The issue is, why is it working? So when you process that, whatever they're saying, why is it working? Why is it impacting me? Why is it distracting me? Mm. Why is it throwing me off game?
That's inside. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an inside job. Weakness is not from without. Weakness is from within. Mm. So no matter what's going down, why is it working? That's what has to be answered. You know, my premise is, and I said in the book, in essence, never discuss the fruit without understanding the root. The root of all maladjustment is in the thinking. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Back to the African Hebrew King Solomon, he says, as a man thinks, well, as a man, woman thinks, so is he, so is she. So the root of all maladjustment is in the thinking. If it's working, if it's throwing us off, it has something to do with how we think. In fact, I'm encouraging people to reassess their belief systems, because what we actually believe, we actually carry out. So if there is something that distracts me, I really need to look at my belief system. Mm-hmm. Maybe for some people, they are approval addicts. Yeah. That they are addicted to the approval of other people. And so they basically get off with what people are saying. You should do this. This is how you should do it, or whatever else, instead of being true to themselves. So we really need to, but that takes some serious introspection. That takes some serious honesty. There are a whole lot of people who don't know they're approval addicts.
Yeah.
So why is it working? That's something that we really have to do introspection about, or we have to run it by our close friend groups, our close networks, to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's tripping me up, and so forth. What do you think about this? Again, we're not looking for anybody's decision for us. We're just trying to process, because maybe they see something about us that we really don't see. Mm-hmm. And we're not looking at it as criticism. We're looking at it as critique. My mother said, no individual or institution is beyond critique. Critique gives us an opportunity to close our loopholes. And so maybe, we need to kind of see and get some healthy critique of people who trust us to really give us a more holistic view of things so that it can stop tripping us up.
Yeah. I mean, such a big part of moving forward as an individual is self-awareness. But I feel like we get kind of tripped up in the term self-awareness, where you have to only be aware of yourself rather than also having other people be aware of you also. Because I feel like we struggle so much trying to, I need to introspection and figure out. But there's just some things, like you said, you can't see yourself when you're in the frame. You can't always see what's going on.
Right.
So well, I never really thought about reaching out to other people, saying, you know, this is kind of what's holding me up. This is what I've been thinking about. What are your thoughts with people that you trust, so that you could gain more awareness about yourself through other people's awareness of you.
Exactly. All of nature is interdependent. And that's the golden thread that goes through growing and flowing. Yeah. All of nature is interdependent. You know, the branch in the vine and so forth. Anything in nature that is independent dies.
Yeah.
So we got carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. We got the branch and the vine, you know, I and you and me, or whatever. There is interdependence. Our Creator never proliferated a dependency mentality. It's interdependence. We need people. People need us, but we choose who we permit into our inner circles.
Yeah.
You know, we have to have the discernment to choose, and we have to have good boundaries also. You know.
Yeah. And something that is talked about in the Dirtville Middle School that you referred to in the book. It's a group. What's really a city of people who walk around with their heads down. And the middle school, it gave me flashbacks to some of my middle school days. It was kind of funny. Just the certain hallways, you don't go down that hallway. You just don't go. But lots of the children there, even the adults, had circumstances or issues that they didn't really have much control over. Socioeconomic issues. You didn't choose your parents. They might not be the most supportive in your household. You might have suffered from abuse or just lack of love or anything like that can affect the vision building process. We need the right tools. We need the right supplies in order to build something properly, right?
Yes.
So sometimes, and it doesn't have anything to do with us, but we're deficient in some of those tools and supplies we need. What are, I would just say, 3 tools or materials that you think every visionary needs in order to successfully build their vision?
What comes into my spirit right now are 3 L's. Listening, learning, and loving. Listening. Active listening. Very few people have the ability, or very few. No, let me take that back. Very few people have expanded their capacity to listen more and talk less. Listening is a capacity building construct, basically. So when we listen, we can glean more than we can. But you know how it is when we're talking with somebody, we're not really listening because we can't wait to get our point in there and so forth. Mm-hmm. So we're not really listening to what they say. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Mm-hmm. Hearing is voice activated. Listening is spirit activated. That we are now really seeking to draw into our spirit the essentials that we need. Learning is very important because we don't know everything. You know, I'm talking to you, but I only know what I know, you know. But, you know, I need to learn more. That means then I have to take some time each day to learn. And this is not only active listening, but active learning. Most folk don't dive into the pool of their day with the thought process that this is what I want to learn today. Mm-hmm. We just dive in and we just start swimming into the pool of our day. So basically, as I said, if we don't know what we have, what we want, then we probably won't get it for that particular day. If we don't know what we want to learn, we probably won't learn it that particular day. And so we need to be open to learning, and we know there are different ways to learn. We can even learn from people that we don't have any, we don't necessarily care for them. We can still learn, but reading something, hearing something, taking the initiative to expose ourselves to seminars or presentations or readings or something we can learn. Listening, learning, and then loving. Love is foundational to be a great visionary. This is what the Spirit brought into my spirit of one of my stabilizing philosophies for life. We need a profound appreciation of the humanity of all people, regardless of how they self-identify. If we don't, stuff will throw us off. People's lifestyles, people's this, that, will throw our vision off. Our vision, a right vision, is predicated upon love, because visions are not for us. Visions are manifested through us. But if we don't have a love and a profound respect for the humanity of all visions, our visions will be self-serving. Yeah, man, I want to make some money off of this. Okay, all right. It's fine if you can be compensated for your vision or whatever, but that's usually not what visions are foundationally for.
Yeah.
Professions are for livelihood. Visions are for human good. So to listen, to learn, and to love humanity, we don't have to like what people are actually doing, but to have that appreciation and love for the humanity of all people can really assist us. Those 3 L's: listening, learning, and loving.
If you had a billboard that everyone could see driving down the highway, and it was sponsored by you, and you had one message on that billboard that everyone saw when they drove by, what would be the message you want them to hear?
Man, this thing would change. It would be a different message every day. It'd be like, it'd come up one day, and then the next day it would be something else.
It's one of those digital ones.
Yeah, man. So it's really kind of hard, like the blind thing and it turns, whatever. So it would be different every day, but based on what we're actually talking about would be think for yourself. I mean, you say it in your words, in your mantra, as far as your podcast is concerned, actually about not worrying about what other people are saying. You just have to be true to your vision and your purpose and so forth or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But that means that a person has to think for themselves and, as a quote says, not be the reflector of other men's thoughts. So that first billboard would be think for yourself. But with thinking for yourself comes a responsibility. That's just like wholeness. With wholeness comes a responsibility. Think for yourself. That's the first thing.
That's good. Man, that was some good stuff. I told you guys, one of the wisest cats I know. Did you write down notes? Because I wrote notes. I wrote lots of notes. Well, let me share a few takeaways with you. First thing is, you have to establish your philosophies for living, or else the world will establish them for you. What is the creed that you live by? You develop your vision and philosophies for living by surrounding yourself by assets. He said he has 7 assets, And these are people that you trust and respect. Think of those people. Do you have those people in your circle? You build that team by listening for people who are speaking life, who are speaking positivity, who have an expertise and their objective in your life, so that you know what they say you could really trust. And you can find solitude in a crowd. And this was huge for me because I struggle with this a lot. And lots of times finding silence or solitude in a crowd is what's necessary. Your solitude is more mental than anything else. The world will always be distracted, but that doesn't mean that you and I have to be. If you want more notes, if you didn't write anything down, it's all good. It's all good. I got you. There are key takeaway sheets on the Build Your Vision website. The link to that sheet is in the show notes below. So just click there and you get all the things I took notes on. If you were enlightened by this episode in any way, please give it a quick rating on Apple Podcasts so that this message can reach more people. I want to make this podcast a top 100 podcast, and rating the show will help us reach that goal. The link to do that is in the show notes as well. All right, guys, I will talk to you next week. Until then, keep building your vision every single day. Peace.